We are now joined by Santos. Mr. Santos is London anchor of World Business Today at CNN International. Thank you for your time, Mr. Santos. Thank you for participating in this year's Gallen Symposium. You're hosting two panels at this year's symposium. One of them is about the promises and pitfalls of emerging markets. Based on your daily contact with leaders from around the world, how do you personally evaluate the future prospects of emerging countries, especially when it comes to potential successors of the so-called BRIC states?
No, that's really interesting, actually. What we seem to have got out of that panel was that people who are running companies around the world, whether they're running a major corporation that's listed on the stock markets, whether they're running a private equity fund or a hedge fund or whatever, obviously their investors and their shareholders are often these days, it seems, demanding ongoing rates of growth. Even if your figures are pretty good these days, people say, but where's the growth coming from? And that's why so many companies are trying to gain access to the emerging markets. But the problem is, you really have to do your due diligence. What we heard from Naguib Sawiris, from Orascom Telecom, the chairman of that company, who's obviously done huge things to set up a really big company, and not just one, many in many places in the world. What we heard is that obviously, given the fact that we've had the Arab Spring uprisings, it has changed the risk profile, so people need to be even more careful in doing their due diligence. But overwhelmingly, the audience seemed to vote in favour of emerging markets continuing to be a financially rewarding play going forward.
Thank you. Which countries do you see as the next emerging nations?
That's interesting. Us journalists technically aren't supposed to have opinions. I can tell you what the panellists themselves had to say, who have plenty more experience than I do in actually putting their money where their mouth is and financially investing in the world's emerging markets. The founder and CEO of Abraj Capital, obviously a hugely successful private equity company in this space, said that in Latin America, countries like Peru that have significant commodities exposure, but also an emerging consumer story as well. Great investment plays, according to him. Same for Colombia, which is fast emerging as one of the most successful Latin American countries, also financially managed as well. A lot of caution on Brazil, though, because obviously it's a huge country. It has had a huge middle-class boom, but there's concerns about a consumer credit bubble bursting there at some point going forward. Also, the rates of growth have come right down to the mid to low single digits. And then, of course, places like Turkey still remain a really successful emerging market play for people on the panel.
Mr. Santos, thank you really much. Enjoy your time at this year's Gallen Symposium. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.